This is a read aloud of Gumption by Langston Hughes. Remember that Langston Hughes uses dialect within his story. Okay, this is in our lesson for today. Sorry, just trying to move the screen over. And remember that dialect is a way of speaking that is particular to a certain group of people, place, or time. So as an African American growing up, early in the century, he uses a certain type of dialect that we will hear throughout the story. Pay attention to this as you read. Okay, Gumption by Langston Hughes. You young folks don't remember the Depression, but I do. No jobs for nobody. That winter there wasn't a soul working in our house but my wife, and she was evil as she could be. She was doing a few washings now and then for the white folks, before hand laundry went out of style, so we kinder made out. But she didn't like to see me sitting around even if I couldn't find a job. There wasn't no work to be got in our town, nor any other place for that matter. We had a couple of roomers, a man and his girlfriend, but they were out of a job also. And, like me and my wife, they hadn't been in town long enough to get any consideration, since the relief folks were hard on strangers. So using my context clues, I'm going to guess that relief folks is going to be somebody who's going to help those that are in need, but these folks were not helping as many people who are strangers. And then I'm just going to check my understanding. Public program to assist needy people. I guessed right. All of us was just managing to get by on beans and mush all winter. One cold February morning we was sitting around the stove in the kitchen trying to keep warm, the roomers and me. My wife was ironing, when who should pass by outside in the alley but Old Man Oyster and his son. "There goes Oyster and that boy of his," I said, "ragged as a jaybird, both of 'em." "They ain't even on relief work, is they?" Jack the roomer asked. They did have a few hours' work a month," I answered. "They messed up, though." "Messed up, you call it, eh?" "Huh?" Maybe we'd say that, huh? "Messed up, you call it, huh?" my wife put in her nervous way. "Well, they got gumption, anyhow." Gumption. Spunk, boldness, initiative. "They told them white folks up yonder in the office just what they thought of 'em. That's what they did." "And look at 'em now," I said, "going through the alley looking for something to eat." "Well, they got gumption," my wife yelled, "and that's something." "You can't eat gumption," Jack remarked, which made my wife mad. "You can't eat sitting around on your rumpus, neither," she broke out, slamming her iron down on the white man's shirt and looking real hard at our roomer, a look that said, "You oughtn't to talk, 'cause you ain't paid your rent for a month." I sure was glad I had said nothing, boy. "What's it all about?" Jack's girl asked. "What's Old Man Oyster done to get in bad with them relief folks, Miss Clara?" She had heard about it as a good reader, I'm going to go back and just reread that sentence. She had heard about it before from me, but she just wanted to get my wife to run in her mouth and keep her mind off the fact that they hadn't paid their rent that month. "You ain't heard?" my wife said, choosing a new hot iron. "It's a story worth telling, to my mind, 'cause they got gumption, them oysters." She looked hard at Jack and me. "Now, Old Man Oyster, the story goes way back. Child, he ain't never amounted to much, just poor and honest. But he always did want to make something out of that boy of his and Charlie, little and runty as he was. He worked hard to do it, too. He portered and bell-hopped, did road work, did anything he could do. Because I know what road work is a job, I'm going to use my context clues to guess that these are two different jobs, but I'm going to check. Portered, carried bags at a train or bus station. Bellhopped, carried bags at a hotel. I was right. Kept that boy in school after his wife died. Washed his ears, kept him clean, tried to make a gentleman out of him. That boy did pretty well. Grew up and took a commercial bookkeeping typewriter course in the school and came out grade A. Grade A, I'm telling you. Graduated and got a job with the white folks. Yes, sir. First time I ever heard tell of a colored boy typewriting or keeping books or anything like that in this white man's town. But Mr. Bartleson, what owned the coal yard and fuel office where young Oyster worked, he was from Maine and didn't have no prejudice to speak of. So he gave this colored boy a chance in his place. It was them white truck drivers jealous, seeing a Negro working in the office and they out driving trucks. But Old Man Oyster's boy was prepared. I'm telling you, prepared. He had a good education and could do the work, black as he was. And he was lucky to find somebody to give him a break, because you know, and I know, you don't see no colored man working in white folks' offices nowhere, hardly. Remember, this was a different time. Well, sir, Old Man Oyster was proud as he could be of his boy. We was all proud. The church was proud. The white business school what graduated him was proud. Everything went fine for 2 or 3 years. Oyster and Charlie even started to buy a little house, 'cause the old man was working on the road digging for 40 cents an hour. Then the Depression came. They stopped building roads, and folks stopped buying fuel to keep warm by. Poor old man Bartleson, what owned the coal yard, finally had to close up, bankrupted and broke, which left young Oyster without a job. Like the rest of us, Old Man Oyster was jobless too, 'cause the less roads they built and sewers they laid, the less work they gave to colored folks, and give it to the white instead. You know how it is, first to be fired and last to be hired. So she's kind of sharing the story of how the Oysters had gumption because they worked really hard and they went to school and they got a degree, the young boy did, and how he had this great job, but the Depression robbed him of that job. Clara was just a ironing and a talking. Then along came this government relief and WPA, and everybody thought times was surely going to get better. Gonna get better. I have to reread. So I'm going to guess that the WPA is something to do with government relief, but I'm going to check my understanding to make sure. WPA, Works Progress Administration, a government program created during the Depression to help provide jobs. Okay. Well, this is where we're at. Well, they ain't got no better, leastwise not for colored. Everybody in this town's on relief now but me and you all. What ain't been here long enough to be in it? I've still got a few washings to do and a little house cleaning now and then, thank God. But look at Sylvester, pointing at me. They have done cut every porter off at the bus station but one. And Sil is jobless as a greyhound. I'm going to go back and reread that to check my understanding. And Sil is jobless as a greyhound. Anyhow, to go ahead with Oyster, it were a crying shame to see this poor old man and that fine young colored boy out of work, and they both ambitious and steady and a good raceman. Well, when relief opened up and they started giving out so many hours of work a month, they put Old Man Oyster back on the road. Now, his boy, Charlie, ain't never done no kind of work like road work, being an office man. But he thought he'd have to do it too. And Charlie wasn't objecting, mind you, when the government opened up a office for what they calls white-collar workers. And all the white folks what's been doing office work in good times, insurance people and store clerks and such, they went there to get the kind o' work they was used to doing. Oyster's son went too. But, don't you know, they discriminated against him. Yes, sir. The government discriminating him because he were black. They said, "You're not no office worker." In spite of all the proofs Charlie had that he were in Mr. Bartleson's office for 3 years. The letter Bartleson gave him and all. But they sent Old Man Oyster's boy right out yonder to work on that road with his father. So, to check my understanding, I'm going to summarize what I understand. She's sharing that an office was opened up by the government to help people who did office work find some kind of job during the Depression so that they could earn money and they could provide for their families. So, Charlie, being trained to work in an office with his education and his experience, went to get a job there, and the government said that he could not get a job there because he was black and because he should go work on the roads with his father. Back to the story. Well, that made the old man mad. Personal connection, that makes me mad too. He said, "What am I working all these years for you, educating you to come out here and dig the road with me, and you with an education?" The old man stopped his work then and there that morning. I think I read that wrong. I'm going to go back. The old man stopped his work then and there that morning, laid off, and went right up to that government office to see the white man about it. And that's where the trouble started. Clara was just a talkin' and a ironing. The government white man said, "You ought to be glad for your boy to get any kind o' work these days and times. You can't be picking and choosing now." But Old Man Oyster stood there and argued with the man for his son's rights. That's why I say he's got gumption. He said, "I ain't asking to be picking and choosing, and I ain't asking nothing for myself. I'm speaking about that boy o' mine. Charlie's got an education. True, he's colored, but he's worked for 3 years in an office for one of the finest white men that ever lived and breathed, Mr. Bartleson. Charlie's got experience. My boy's a typewriter and a bookkeeper. What for you send him out to work on a road with me? Ain't this the place what's given all the white folks jobs doing what they used to doing and know how to do? My boy ain't know nothin' about no pick and shovel. Why don't you treat Charlie Oyster like you do the rest of the people and give him some o' his kind o' work?" Here we are. "We have no office jobs here for Negroes," said the man, right flat out like that. "That's why I sent your son over where they give out road work. I classify all Negroes as laborers on our relief rolls." Well, that made Old Man Oyster mad as heck. He said, "Drat it, I'm a citizen. Is that what WPA is for? To bring more discrimination than what is? I want to know why my boy can't be a typewriter like the rest of 'em what's got training, even if it is on relief. If he could work in a white man's office, ain't he good enough to work from you and you, the government?" Well, this made the white man mad, and he yelled, "You must be one of them communists, ain't you?" And he pressed some kind of buzzer and sent out for a cop. This is a time period when fear of communism, which is a type of government, was spreading across the United States. They worried that people would bring that type of government here to America. So if you were called a communist, this was a big threat, and it was insulting. Now, Old Man Oyster ain't never had no trouble of any kind in this town before, but when them cops started to push, sorry, I'm going to go back and reread. But when them cops started to put their hands on him and throw him out o' that office, he raised sand. He was right, too. But them cops didn't see it that way, and one of 'em brought his stock down on that old man's head and knocked him out. When Oyster came to, he was in jail. Then Old Man Oyster's son showed he was a man. Charlie heard about the trouble when he come home from off the road that evening, and he went to the jail to see his papa, boiling mad. When he heard how it was, that white man calling the cops in to beat up his father, he said, "Pa, I'll be in jail here with you tomorrow." And sure enough, he was. He went up to that there white-collared relief office the next morning and beat that white man so bad he ain't got over it yet. "The idea," young Oyster said, "of you having my father knocked down and dragged out because he came here to talk to you like a citizen about our rights? Who are you, anyway, any more'n me? Try to throw me out of here, and I'll beat you to a pulp first." Well, that man reached for the buzzer again to call in some more cops. When he reached, young Oyster had him. It would 'a' done me good to see the way that black boy gave that white man a fit, because he turned him every way but loose, which means he beat him up pretty bad. When the cops came in, they put Charlie in jail all right, but that white man was beat by then. The idea of a relief coming here, adding prejudice to what we already got, and times as hard as they is. Clara planked down her iron on the stove. Anyhow, they didn't keep the Oysters in jail very long, neither father or son. Old Judge Murray gave 'em a mouth apiece, suspended sentence, and let 'em out. But when they got out o' jail, don't you know them relief people wouldn't give Oyster and his boy no more work at all. No, sir. They told 'em they wasn't feeding no black reds. I think I'll read the next sentence to see if I can make sense of this word. Now, Old Man Oyster nor Charlie neither ain't never heard o' communists, but that's what they called 'em, just 'cause they went up there and fought for what they ought to have. So I'm going to guess that the Reds has something to do with communists, but I'm not sure. Reds, slang term for communists. They didn't win. They're out there in the alleys now hauling trash. But they got gumption. "You can't live on gumption," I said, trying to be practical. "No, but you can choke on shame," my wife yelled, looking hard at Jack and me. I ain't never seen you all fighting for nothin' yet. Lord knows you both bad enough off to go out and raise heck somewhere and get something." She put the iron down with a bang. "If I had a young boy, I'd want him to be like Oyster's son, and not take after none of you, sitting around behind the stove, talking about how you can't live on gumption. You can't live on it 'cause you ain't got none, that's why. Get up from behind that stove, get out here, both of you, and bring me something back I can use. Bread, money, or a job. I don't care which. Get up and go on. Scat!" She waved her iron in the air and looked like she meant to bring it down on my head instead of on a shirt. So Jack and me had to leave that nice warm house and go out in the cold and scuffle. There was no peace at home that morning, I mean. I had to try and work up a little gumption.